Hello, Jamie, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Well, hi. Okay, this started recording not indicating, but anyway, greetings everyone. This is Cherokee Billie. I am here with my special guest, Jamie, who is a client and a friend of mine who took the guided journey. We didn't know each other at the time, and she found me, and she did this guided journey in the spirit, and her story is quite remarkable. First off, what happened that caused you to start looking for something like what I was doing?
Well, my fiance committed suicide October of last year, and we had a very, very close connection, and I felt strongly that there was more that needed to be said between he and I. And so I went on YouTube, and I found you.
Right. And I know that then we set up the appointment and, what were you feeling? Well, let's just say, when I do this process, I go with you into spirit and I guide you to the right places so you're not into some negative area. But when we started in the spirit, what did it feel like for you when we started this journey?
When we started, it felt very, I felt very peaceful. I felt very safe. I felt like I recognized I felt a sense of familiarity. Um,
You mean being in spirit?
yes, being in spirit. It didn't feel foreign to me. I felt
Mm-hmm.
very safe. I didn't feel any fear or worry or anxiety whatsoever.
And what did it look like when we entered?
Oh my gosh, it was so beautiful. I remember going through a beautiful golden door and walking into this beautiful, vibrant green meadow with this grass that was blowing in the wind. And I just remember the air, felt, everything just felt so alive. And it was very intense, but it was wonderful. It was wonderful.
Yes, again, I was impressed, taking you in because you're a young woman. I didn't know you, but I could tell that you really were grounded, even though you had just been through a tragedy, a suicide, and also you were pregnant at the time.
Yeah, that's right. I was 5 months pregnant, and
That's a
I
hard
really,
blow.
yeah, yeah, it was. And I knew that it was very important for me to get the healing that I needed, not only for myself, but because I was pregnant.
Yes,
And that was essential. So I was just determined um, to do whatever, to allow healing to happen.
right, because you knew it would be healing for the baby as well.
Yeah,
Because,
I
if you're
did
torn up
understand.
with grief, it's going to affect the child. And I think that was wise on your part. I just picked up a lot of wisdom from you for a woman with such young age. And that's a real blessing. And it was a pleasure, doing this because I sensed it. And, well, let's say once we got in and you were there in this, who did you see first when we were
Um,
in spirit?
I remember as I began to walk down the path, there was a lady walking towards me, and
Mm-hmm.
her name is Helen, and I immediately what was beautiful about it was that no words were spoken, but as soon as I saw her, I immediately understood who she was and the effect that she's had over my lifetime thus far. And I remember seeing flashes of my childhood of, being in a family with parents who were drug addicts and just a broken home. And just seeing those moments and her being there, even though I couldn't see her, but all those moments I realized that I was always looked after. I was always cared for, even when my physical family didn't always do it. So that was very comforting for her to be the first person I saw.
Well, obviously, guardian angel, and, that's the neat thing in spirit. You don't need words. It goes through telepathically, and you were able to go back in time quickly and see visions of your life. This is, the spirit world works much differently than what people think and from what they've seen from TV shows, etc. When you are actually in spirit, it's quite different. It's very peaceful. It's very calm. It's not chaotic in any way, as you know.
Yeah, that's so true. I was just thinking while you were saying that television, seeing when they try to portray those type of experiences, there's such a dialogue, a long dialogue that takes place. So you expect that, well, when you meet an angel, there's going to be this back and forth and, asking questions, getting answers. But it's not like that. It's just immediately just downloaded. You get it. It's immediate.
Good way to put it, because people can relate to download instead of the telepathic communication. That they don't quite understand. But, yeah, it's instant, and that is the way it works, And I knew that, it was a powerful connection. I saw her holding you at that one point through this.
Yeah.
And then you started walking together.
Yeah.
And what was the next thing that you remember from this?
We walked down a path and came up to this beautiful cottage. And, it was beautiful. It was small and cozy and warm and welcoming. It was inviting. It just felt so familiar. Like every new thing I saw, I felt like, oh, yeah, I know you. I recognize you. There's a sense of relief, with each new thing I saw. It was like connecting dots in a way.
Yes, and in a way connecting back to when you'd been there before in the spirit prior to this life.
Yeah.
And that was part of it. And I know that you then went into this little cottage. And you want to describe, once you went in, what happened? Because Helen waited outside for you.
That's right. She stood outside, and I went through the door, and I looked around, and I saw a fireplace with a sofa in front of it, and I sat down on the sofa, and I just relaxed and allowed myself to sort of remember this place and that it's a safe place.
Yes, to kind of embed it into your brain.
Yeah.
That you wouldn't forget it.
Yeah.
And what happened next?
After that, the door opened, and I tell you, as soon as the door opened, I immediately knew it was Omar. Before he got and walked in front of me for me to see him, I immediately knew it was him. I knew it. And he walked in up to the side of me and sat down on my right side. It was just so beautiful. It's just such a sense of relief, like, oh, finally we get to see each other and say, okay, are you okay? Yes, I'm okay. Are you okay? Yes, I'm okay. And it was just immediately that was communicated between he and I without, again, the dialogue. It was just
all telepathic.
yeah, you just sense it, you know. It's
Yeah, you
beautiful. There's
sense
no,
and feel. Yeah, and this
yeah,
is, Omar was your fiance who killed himself, just so people are clear on this.
yeah,
And that's who first came in and who you were with,
mhm,
and that's who you were wanting to communicate with.
yeah,
And what went on between the two of you? I mean, it was a lot. I mean, I could see it. I was
yeah,
observing and watching.
yeah. The first was we immediately hugged and just held each other really tight. And as soon as I did, again, I was just getting all of the downloads. And the first things he was communicating to me is that he is okay, and that he's sorry for what he did. But um, it wasn't the way we apologize down here with a sense of strong guilt that's heavy. It was, I don't know how to explain it in words, but it was
Well,
just
that's okay.
immediately,
It's okay, however you want to put it.
yeah, it was immediately understood. You know, I immediately understood the pain. I understood the peace that he was now able to receive, and it really healed something in me. You know, that entire experience with him, I felt like the pieces of my heart were slowly coming back together with just every moment, just sensing and just feeling those energies from him.
And
And
I remember I could see him, like, he moved and put his head in your lap, like, just like he was so sorry. And just
yeah,
he needed the healing. And it was like being with you was healing him.
yeah. And again, that showed me in that moment that that healing doesn't stop, because when we would have arguments or conflict when he was alive, and when we would meditate together, he would actually put his head in my lap and we would talk, and he would express how our relationship was such a healing experience for the both of us. And for him to do that now in the spirit world, it really solidified for me, this is Omar. This is all Omar here.
Mhm.
He,
Well, it couldn't be anyone else. Only you and him knew what you had said together,
mm,
you know. So it would be quite obvious that it
yeah,
was. And one thing, with Omar is that he did suffer post-traumatic stress syndrome from being in the military, that he had went through quite a bit that caused him to get into the state he got into. Correct?
yes, yeah. He did spend some time in the military, and the thing with PTSD, the longer it lies dormant, it just gets worse and worse with time, and it just, spun into mental illness, and into him ultimately committing suicide.
Yes, it's a very hard thing to go through. And that's what people don't understand, how hard some things in life, especially for the military people, it is, and the healing that is needed afterwards. Not only just talking, but it's a spiritual healing that needs to take place and before they reach the place of, desperation and suicide. But, one thing that is great is, Omar wasn't in hell like many people believe. He was fine.
He was more than fine. If he had done, countless hours of intense therapy and whatever on earth, it could not measure up to the healing and the peace and just the state that he was in, just that far into it, just after passing, less than 2 months,
Yeah, it was a very short time.
Mhm.
And yes, it was a tremendous difference for him.
Mhm.
And then, I know you did a lot when you were together, because I was observing and seeing you two doing, like, kind of dancing.
Mhm. Yeah. We had a special song between he and I that meant a lot to us, and we were going to dance to that for our wedding. And as I was sitting down, before I could complete the thought in my mind, wow, I'm so sad we're not going to get to have that dance. Before I could finish that thought, he stood in front of me and he put his hand out, and as soon as I took his hand, the music started playing to that song. And I stood up and we held each other and slowly danced, and just it was such a gift. That moment was such a gift that we had our dance, and I'm so thankful for that. I'm so thankful that that happened.
That moment,
Mhm.
and something that only you and him, again, could know about and share.
Exactly. No one
Very
knew that.
private moment.
No one. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's and I could see you two moving, and I knew, it was like a dance, but I can't hear. When I'm in this process, I see, but I cannot hear. It's like it's for you, the person going in, to hear. It's the gift that you get, and obviously you have a lot of natural instincts, and you're clairaudient, clairvoyant. You can see all of these things and hear them.
Yeah.
And it came through very well for you, and you weren't even aware of that.
Yeah. Crystal clear.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't. Even the words you just said, I don't think I may have heard them maybe 3 times before in my life.
Right. And it doesn't matter whether you know the words or not. It's just these are what you have a gift for, because it showed, because some people could go into spirit and they might not see. They may hear, but they might not see, or they might see and they might not hear. It can work different ways for different people, but for you, you got the full-on experience.
Wow.
And the healing that occurred for both you and Omar was enormous. And then more happened after you danced. Then what went on? I can't remember.
After we danced, he stood in front of me and he placed his hand on my stomach. And he got down on his knees and he put his head on my stomach. And as he did that, I could see that he was just, to me, it looked like he was giving him information. There was a stream of light going from him to my womb, and it was beautiful to see. And I remember that in front of us there was Archangel Raphael, which was amazing. That when I saw him, when he said his name, it came to me. It was amazing that you picked that up. And it's just amazing how you were able to pick up and see everything that I was seeing.
Experiencing, yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing. Because you
weren't just seeing it, you were experiencing it.
Yeah, it wasn't like watching a movie. I was there. Yeah. And I remember this energy, this green energy, was flowing around us, around Omar and I, and from Omar to the baby, and it felt like such a cleansing energy. I think, that's the word I think I could use to best describe it. It felt very, very cleansing. Which,
was needed. you know, for you, both of you, well, the three of you really, you know, that, and that, then, you know, I don't remember, again, I can't remember it as well as you because, you know, it was a life-changing experience for you. But then what happened?
After that, we all sat down again, and not only was Omar there and Archangel Raphael that was there, but my grandmother was there, and also a warrior-like entity was there. And from each of them, I was able to see that, yes, I may have had a quote unquote hard knock life, but through every moment, I was never alone. And that was the most beautiful part of it that I really took from it, is that knowing that all the stuff I've been through, I was able to get through it because I had help. I was never alone. And I'm still never alone. And
right.
it's just made my life so less stressful now, that I know that for a fact.
You know, people read about it and they hear about it and talk about having guardian angels or spirit guides or whatever, but, you know, they don't really fully realize it, but you got the full-on impact of it when you saw it firsthand. These are the ones who've always been around.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a very powerful thing. And it gives you, you know, it increases your faith and understanding that, you know, there's more going to happen, you know, for you in the spirit world. You don't just sit there on a cloud plucking a harp. You know, you're doing stuff in spirit.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It showed me that we still evolve even after we end our human incarnation. We evolution, we're still...
Yes, we're still growing and learning.
Yeah.
And we're planning on doing another one on the anniversary of Omar's death, and I'm sure a year later there's going to be a tremendous change in him.
Yes. Yes,
and
I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, that's going to be quite interesting. And then let's just say what happened, you know, toward the end, kind of, you know, take us through how everything kind of ended there in spirit.
The way things ended, before we all stood up and everyone left one at a time, I remember again just getting that download from them all again that, you know, when you leave this and you go back to your life, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. And one by one, I said goodbye to everyone. My grandmother, I said goodbye to the entity that protects me. I said goodbye to everyone, and then Omar, we embraced. And it wasn't a goodbye. It was just like giving him a hug or a kiss because he's going away on a trip for a little while. But we know we'll see each other again. And, you know, there's no reason to be, you know, tremendously sad about it because we'll see each other again, you know. And then he left with my grandmother. And then Helen walked me back out down the path and back to the beautiful golden door, and she was the last that I said goodbye to.
Right, and then you were back here in this world. And, you know, I know it's been a tremendous change, and you had the baby then later on, and you named him Omar, and I've seen pictures, and he just looks like an old soul with such wisdom.
Yes, he is just, oh my gosh, he is such a, he's a beautiful baby. I remember when I was in labor with him at the hospital, and the nurse, they finally said that I'm going to stay, I'm going to have him. And I was there alone. I was alone. And I remember thinking in my head, okay, Omar, are you here? You know, can you help? Can you just something to show me that you're here? And the nurse walked back in the room and she said, listen, I hope I don't lose my job for saying this, but the universe is telling me to tell you that everything is going to be all right and that all the resources that you need to take care of that baby will be provided and that that baby is very, very special and you don't need to worry about anything. And she hugged me and left back out of the room.
Wow. That's incredible. Because, yes, in the medical field, they really aren't supposed to do things like that.
No, they're not. Not at all.
But
and no one else talks like me. That.
She obviously was led and tuned into spirit and just had to tell you. Because there you were, that young woman all alone,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and just, yeah, it was amazing. And then even after that, my family, they finally showed up. It was just, everything was just every step of the way. I was able to see that, okay, you're not alone. Remember what happened when you went into the spirit world. They're all still here. You're not alone. Yeah.
That is great. And I hope that this message reaches many people and that they understand that these things really are real, that this is not made up, it's not in your head. It takes a special way to get in to spirit and do this, but it is possible to talk and communicate with your loved ones, and not through a medium, a channel, but directly. And it's much more impactful, like what you had. If that would have been, say, a psychic medium telling you these things, it would not have meant as much as what you felt and sensed and saw.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
There is a big difference. And I've worked, in these areas for a long time. This, to me, is the most rewarding because, again, it's just amazing what occurs. And for each person, it's different what happens, but it's really something, So now you've got this beautiful baby, Omar, and, he's just going to be led by his father, I'm sure. And again, maybe we can do this again after we do the next session together. We can do another recording and let people know what happened, what the changes have been in his life, to tell people about the changes in his spirit life. Because, the place where you went, we have different homes in spirit. We live in different places, and that was one of yours. And it's going to be interesting to know what he is doing, what is perhaps his assignment, we'll say, what his work is, what his things are that he does over there. And it's going to be really fascinating. And I want to thank you, Jamie, for sharing this story, and hopefully, again, that this reaches and touches other people. Because I know you've written this out, and you've sent pictures, and people have read it. But, a lot of people think that it's not real, but here you are on the phone. So you are a real person. This did happen.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I am your average Joe Schmo. And, some unfortunate things happened in my life, and but God led me to you and to have this experience, and it's changed my life for the better in so many different ways, really in every way, honestly in every way, because I see everything now with a new set of eyes. Honestly, I really do.
That is wonderful. And that's the thing, is to change a person's life and not just to answer questions, but to have them experience life differently and be able to go forward with much more power and strength. And that's what I think you've received. Well, I thank you for your time, Jamie, for taking the time out of your busy schedule with your children. and we will talk again, and I thank you for being here, and I thank everyone who's listening now and in the future. So everybody be blessed.